Jason Carter floated inside the airlock of the alien vessel, his boots pressing against the smooth metal floor. The ship had reactivated suddenly far beyond human space, and his mission was clear: enter, assess, and repair. He adjusted the straps of his tool pack and took a slow breath. The ship was old, older than any human had seen, yet it hummed with power. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, reflecting in his visor. He had prepared for strange, but nothing could have prepared him for the quiet majesty that awaited. The door ahead slid open with a whisper. Beyond it lay a wide hall filled with shimmering panels and intricate structures. Jason's first thought was that this ship was not just a vessel. It was a palace. Every surface seemed polished and alive, as if the ship itself watched him. He stepped cautiously, aware that he was far from the nearest human outpost. Every sound, every movement carried weight. He was an intruder, and perhaps the first human any being on this ship had seen in centuries. Then he saw her. Empress Liara stood at the center of the hall. She was tall, taller than any human, with a presence that filled the room. Her skin was pale, almost luminous, and her eyes glimmered like polished amber. Her robes shimmered as she moved, reflecting the soft light of the panels. Jason froze. He had read about alien rulers, about beings who commanded respect across star systems, but this was different. Liara's gaze met his, sharp and intelligent, yet curious. It was not anger nor fear. It was assessment. She was weighing him, understanding him with nothing more than a glance. Jason cleared his throat. "I'm here to repair the ship," he said, keeping his voice calm. "I don't mean any harm." Liara tilted her head slightly. She did not speak at first. The silence stretched heavy and tense, as if the room itself waited for her decision. Finally she spoke, her voice like a melody of crystal and wind. "You are human." "Yes," Jason said. "I am." "You are small," she said, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. "Yet you are not afraid." Jason swallowed. "Fear is a tool. I control it, not the other way around." Liara's eyes flickered, almost amused. "Bold," she said. "Few beings possess courage without recklessness." "You are interesting, human." Jason nodded. "Then I'll do my best to be useful." She waved her hand and the lights around them shifted, projecting holographic schematics into the air. Jason instinctively studied them. They were complex, unlike anything human engineers had designed, but the principles were not entirely foreign. His mind raced as he traced circuits, analyzed flows of energy, and calculated structural integrity. Liara watched silently, her expression unreadable. The more he worked, the more he realized that this ship was alive in ways he couldn't fully understand. It responded to touch, to intention, as if it sensed the mind behind the hands. Hours passed. Jason moved through corridors lined with pulsing lights, repairing damaged conduits, realigning cores, and recalibrating systems. Every so often Liara appeared, observing. Sometimes she spoke, not to give instructions, but to ask questions. Her questions were strange, probing, almost philosophical. "Why do you not fear your death?" she asked once as Jason tightened a complex interface in the heart of the ship. "Because dying is a chance to learn what I didn't know while alive," he answered without hesitation. "It's a step in understanding. I prefer life, yes, but I am not blind to risk." Liara's amber eyes widened slightly. She had encountered many beings in her long life, many commanders and warriors, but few spoke with such clarity and calm. She inclined her head, acknowledging his words. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as they appear," she said quietly. "Perhaps they have qualities unseen by stronger races." Jason didn't know whether to take it as praise or observation. He continued his work, letting his hands and mind focus on the machinery. Still, he felt her presence often, like a quiet weight just beyond his shoulders, observing, judging, learning. As night fell over the distant stars outside the ship, a sudden alarm rang through the corridors. Jason froze, then quickly checked the interface. A core system had overloaded. Panels sparked, and the floor vibrated beneath his boots. He cursed under his breath and rushed toward the central reactor. The room was vast, filled with intricate machinery and glowing conduits. The core itself pulsed with unstable energy, threatening to tear the ship apart. Liara was already there, standing near the core. She did not panic. Her eyes followed Jason as he assessed the damage. "It is dangerous," she said, her voice steady. "Most beings would flee." Jason glanced at her, noting her calmness. "Then you have more confidence in me than most," he said. "We need to reroute power and stabilize the feedback loop." Liara nodded and extended her hand. Jason hesitated for a moment. The air seemed charged, almost alive. He reached out, placing his hands on the control panel next to hers. Their fingers brushed, not by design, but necessity. The energy surge from the core made them both tense, and a shiver ran through Liara's body. She inhaled sharply, a sound barely audible over the hum of the machinery. "Don't stop," she said, her voice low, almost startled. Jason's eyes widened, but he kept his focus. He didn't know if it was a command, a warning, or an instinctive reaction to the energy surge. He worked quickly, rerouting the power as Liara assisted, her hands steady but alert. The core's hum began to normalize, the light stabilizing and the vibration easing. Finally, the alarm ceased. Jason stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. Liara observed silently, her eyes softer now, filled with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "You handled that well," she said, her voice calm again. "Few could do what you did without fear." Jason nodded, his heart still racing from the sudden crisis. "I do what I must," he said. "Fear is a tool, not a master." Liara's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Indeed, you are unlike any human I have encountered. You are small, fragile, yet remarkable." Jason felt a strange pride, though he said nothing. He had faced many dangers in his career, but nothing like this. He was alone in the middle of alien space, repairing a ship he barely understood, and yet he had earned the respect of a being who had ruled galaxies. The rest of the night passed in quiet work. Jason continued repairs, Liara occasionally watching or offering cryptic advice. They moved with unspoken coordination, a team formed by necessity rather than choice. By dawn, most systems were functional again. The ship hummed with renewed life, its corridors bright and alive with the pulsing glow of energy. As Jason prepared to leave the reactor room, Liara stepped closer. Her presence was commanding, yet not intimidating. "You have done well, human," she said. "Perhaps more than well." Jason inclined his head, unsure how to respond. He had faced many challenges, but her words carried weight he had never encountered before. She studied him for a long moment, then turned, walking gracefully down the corridor. Jason followed, not out of command, but because he felt the ship and its ruler still needed him. The day ahead promised more repairs, more challenges, and more tests of courage. But Jason felt ready. For the first time, he sensed that humans, even small and fragile in the galaxy's eyes, could stand beside the greatest powers and shape events in ways few imagined. The ship was alive, and so was its Empress, and Jason Carter, human engineer, was now a part of its story. The day after the core stabilization, the corridors of the alien ship hummed with quiet energy. Jason Carter moved cautiously, scanning the panels and conduits, making notes on the systems that still needed attention. Repairs were never straightforward, especially in a vessel older than any human starship he had seen. Every wire, every circuit seemed connected to something beyond human understanding, and throughout it all, Empress Liara followed at a measured distance, observing his work with her calm, amber gaze. "You are thorough," she said quietly, her voice echoing slightly in the metallic hall. Few beings would take the time to understand every detail instead of rushing to fix the surface problem. Jason glanced up from a terminal he was adjusting. "It's not just about fixing it. It's about knowing why it broke so it doesn't happen again." Liara tilted her head slightly. She had seen many technicians, engineers, and commanders. Most humans were impulsive, relying on brute force or simple shortcuts. Jason was different. He analyzed, he planned, and he thought ahead. Those qualities, simple in their nature, seemed remarkable to an empress who had encountered countless civilizations. "You possess patience," she said, "and intelligence. Yet you are small and fragile. How is it you command your fear?" Jason paused, considering her question. "I don't command fear. I accept it." "I understand it. Fear is information. It tells you where danger lies, what must be done, and what you must control in yourself to survive." Liara's eyes flickered with interest. She had always thought of fear as something to suppress, to eliminate in those she trained or commanded. Humans, it seemed, had a different approach. They embraced it, yet did not allow it to control them. That intrigued her. "I want to test your ability," she said suddenly, stepping closer. "This ship is old. There are systems here I do not fully trust. Follow me." Jason followed her through narrow corridors that twisted like the roots of an ancient tree. The air was filled with a soft hum, the ship alive in a way that seemed almost conscious. They reached a chamber that looked like a library, but instead of books, the walls were lined with panels displaying streams of data in colors Jason had never seen. At the center was a holographic projection of the ship's systems, constantly shifting, alive with energy. "This is the control nexus," Liara explained. "It monitors the entire ship. If something goes wrong here, the consequences can reach every corner of the vessel. I want you to calibrate it." Jason studied the panels. The interface was alien, almost impossible to navigate at first glance. Symbols shifted as he touched them, responding to intent as much as command. He hesitated, unsure if he should begin. Liara watched, silent and still, her presence making the room feel charged. He placed his hands on the nearest panel and began moving the symbols, tracing energy flows, adjusting nodes. Slowly, the chaos of the interface became a pattern he could understand. Hours passed, yet he did not tire. He worked with steady focus, translating alien logic into human reasoning. Every adjustment he made stabilized the ship further, preventing overloads that could have destroyed whole sections of the vessel. Liara observed every move. At first, her expression was unreadable, but as Jason continued, she noticed his methods were different from anything she had seen before. He did not rely on instinct alone nor on raw power. He studied, adapted, and applied his knowledge carefully. It reminded her of something long forgotten: patience, determination, and ingenuity. "You think differently," she said after a long silence. "Other species I have encountered follow protocol or tradition. You innovate." Jason glanced at her. "Sometimes rules are made by those who fear failure. If the rules don't work, they need to change." Liara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Perhaps humans are capable of more than I imagined." Their concentration was interrupted by a sudden alert. A section of the ship's defense grid had activated unexpectedly. Automated drones began moving toward the chamber. Jason leapt to action, analyzing the situation. The drones were fast, sleek, and armed with energy disruptors that could incapacitate a human in moments. Yet he did not panic. "Step back," he said calmly. "I can redirect their programming." Liara raised an eyebrow. "You will face them alone?" Jason shook his head. "Not alone. I need your assistance." He gestured to her control interface. She stepped forward, her hands joining his over the console. Together they worked in synchrony. Jason redirected the drone's energy patterns while Liara tapped into the ship's systems to override the attack protocol. The machines paused, then halted, their threat neutralized without any destruction. Liara stepped back, studying Jason. "Few beings could handle that," she said. "You remain composed, even under pressure that could kill most humans instantly." Jason nodded, catching his breath. "Composure comes from understanding, not from luck." There was a long pause. Liara's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. She had always maintained distance from others, even allies. Trust was earned, not given. Yet Jason had proven himself not just capable, but exceptional. Something about his presence unsettled her own instincts. He was small and fragile, yet stronger than many larger, more powerful beings she had known. "You may stay close to me," she said finally. "Your skills are valuable." Jason's heart skipped slightly. "I'll do my best, Empress." They spent the next hours repairing minor systems, cataloging the ship's anomalies, and adjusting its energy flows. Their teamwork became seamless. Jason learned to anticipate the Empress's subtle cues, and Liara began to appreciate human ingenuity and decisiveness. She realized that humans, despite being considered weak by the galaxy's standard, could possess qualities unmatched even by her most advanced officers. As they worked, a sudden power surge jolted through the ship. Jason reacted immediately, placing his hands on the nearest panel to stabilize it. Liara instinctively reached to help. Their hands brushed, a spark of energy from the surge making them flinch. Liara shivered slightly, her amber eyes widening. She had not expected this physical closeness, yet she did not withdraw. "Do not stop," she whispered almost instinctively, her voice low. Jason froze for a moment but continued his work. Understanding she meant stabilize the system, not anything else. The ship's energy flowed through the console, responding to their combined efforts. Slowly, the surge diminished and the room returned to calm. Liara stepped back, composing herself. "You are precise," she said. "Few can handle the energy with such calm." "It is remarkable," Jason nodded. It is just a matter of focus and understanding. Panic does nothing. For a long moment they remained silent, the hum of the ship filling the space. It was the first time Liara allowed herself to see Jason not just as a human technician, but as a partner. His presence, small and unassuming, had proven invaluable. She realized humans could possess qualities that even the most advanced races could overlook: courage, creativity, adaptability, and unwavering composure in moments of danger. By nightfall, the repairs were mostly complete. Jason had mapped the ship's systems, stabilized critical energy flows, and earned the Empress's respect. She led him to a chamber overlooking the stars, a place few had permission to enter. The view was breathtaking. Nebulas and distant suns painted the darkness with colors Jason had never imagined. "This ship has been alone for centuries," Liara said softly. "Few visitors have understood it, and fewer still have survived its trials." Jason looked out at the stars, then back at her. "It's not about survival. It's about understanding. Once you understand something, it is no longer a threat." Liara studied him, her expression unreadable yet thoughtful. "Perhaps humans are more than I believed. You are small yet capable. You are fragile yet stronger than many who claim power." Jason smiled faintly. "Humans always find a way, even when the odds seem impossible." She nodded slowly. For the first time in centuries, she allowed herself a moment of admiration, not for the human species in general, but for this one human, who had proven that courage, intelligence, and calm could rival the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The night grew quiet, the stars silent witnesses to their alliance. Jason understood that his work was far from finished. This ship held secrets, challenges, and mysteries that could change the course of entire systems. But he felt ready, with the Empress at his side. Not as a ruler to a subject, but as a partner. He could face whatever came next, and Empress Liara, for all her centuries of rule, realized that this small human could teach her more than any advisor, any officer, or any strategy manual ever could. For the first time, the Empress allowed herself to trust, not blindly but with careful consideration. And Jason Carter, human engineer, had become not just a visitor but an essential part of her ship, her world, and the challenges yet to come. The ship had grown quieter after the surge incident, but Jason Carter could feel the tension lingering in the corridors. Empress Liara moved with her usual grace, yet her amber eyes betrayed curiosity and caution. She no longer simply observed him. She studied him, testing, analyzing, and learning. Jason sensed it, and rather than being intimidated, he focused on understanding the ship and its systems. Every panel, every conduit was a puzzle, and he intended to solve it. "Something is different," Liara said as they walked down a corridor lined with glowing panels. "Most beings who enter this ship panic at the smallest anomaly. You'd adapt. Why is that?" Jason considered her question. "Adaptation is survival," he replied. "If you cannot change, the universe will move on without you." Liara tilted her head, studying him carefully. She had encountered countless species, each claiming superiority, yet few had survived the ship's intricate challenges. Humans, in her observation, were small, fragile, and unpredictable. Jason defied every expectation. "Perhaps humans are not as fragile as I believed," she murmured. Their journey took them to the engineering section, where the ship's secondary power conduits were unstable. Jason knelt before a lattice of glowing energy streams, analyzing the patterns. The conduits pulsed erratically, threatening to overload. He frowned, tracing each line with a practiced hand. "The ship's design is unlike anything I've seen," he said. "It's organic yet mechanical, almost alive," Liara observed from a short distance, her hands folded. "It is alive," she said. "The ship responds to its occupants. It senses intent, focus, and purpose. Few can manipulate it successfully." Jason nodded, reaching out to a conduit that shimmered with raw energy. His touch was careful but deliberate. Slowly, the patterns began to stabilize. He spoke aloud as he worked, a habit to keep his mind sharp. "Energy flows here are misaligned. If I reroute them and reinforce the main circuits, the surge risk drops to near zero." Liara stepped closer, intrigued by his methodical approach. "Most would rely on brute force. You do not. Brute force risks destruction," Jason replied. "Understanding prevents it." For hours they worked side by side. Jason calibrated conduits, adjusted energy flows, and reinforced systems that had not been touched in centuries. Liara's presence was quiet but steady. She offered input only when necessary, allowing him space to demonstrate human ingenuity. Her counselors and aides would have found this arrangement unusual. The Empress rarely delegated critical work to outsiders, yet here she was, observing a human with nothing but trust and cautious interest. Suddenly, a warning signal blared through the ship. Jason's eyes narrowed. Another surge, but this one is different. It's coming from the auxiliary core. Liara's brow furrowed. The auxiliary core is ancient and fragile. It has not been accessed in over 200 years. It could collapse entirely. Jason didn't hesitate. Then we fix it. Together. They moved quickly through narrow corridors, the ship vibrating beneath their feet. Jason's mind raced, analyzing the pathways and conduits. He noticed that the energy readings were inconsistent, unstable, and dangerous. We have to reroute the energy temporarily, he said. It's risky, but it's the only way to stabilize the core. Liara nodded, her expression serious. I will assist, but know this. Failure could cost both our lives. Jason glanced at her, noting the subtle tension in her posture. I am aware. Let's begin. The auxiliary core chamber was vast and circular, filled with intricate machinery that pulsed with raw power. Jason's eyes widened slightly at the sight. The conduits glowed like molten rivers and sparks flew from unstable nodes. Liara stepped forward, her presence commanding yet cautious. Together they approached the core, analyzing the problem. Jason directed Liara's hands to specific panels. These nodes are critical. If we can reroute the flow through the secondary conduits, we can stabilize the core. Liara followed his instructions precisely, her movements deliberate. Jason marveled at her dexterity and control. Despite her immense power as an empress, she moved with the precision of a master technician. Slowly, under Jason's guidance, the energy flow began to shift, stabilizing the pulsing core. Then, an unexpected surge lashed out. Jason and Liara instinctively reached for the same control panel, their hands brushing. A jolt of energy surged through the console and Liara shuddered slightly. Jason froze, his own reflexes keeping him steady. Do not stop, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machinery. Jason understood immediately. He maintained his focus, adjusting the conduits with care. The energy pulse subsided, stabilizing completely. Both took a step back, breathing heavily but steady. You are remarkable, Liara said, her amber eyes wide. Few beings could handle that with such composure. Jason wiped sweat from his brow. It's not remarkable. It's understanding. The ship responds to focus, not fear. Liara's gaze softened, her curiosity growing. Humans are different. I underestimated you. As the auxiliary core stabilized, Jason noticed small fluctuations remaining. There are minor issues, he said. Nothing dangerous, but they could escalate. I recommend continuous monitoring, Liara nodded. Then you shall stay near the core. Your skills are necessary. For the rest of the day, they worked together, monitoring systems, adjusting energy flows, and stabilizing sections that had been dormant for centuries. Jason realized that his human approach, thinking ahead, understanding patterns, and adapting to unforeseen challenges, was not just effective. It was essential. The ship responded to him, almost as if it recognized his ability to think in ways the aliens had not anticipated. By evening, the chamber was calm, the energy flow stable, and the auxiliary core fully functional. Jason stepped back, examining his work. Liara approached, her presence commanding yet different now, less distant, more engaged. You have proven something important, she said. Strength is not only physical or technological. Courage, intelligence, and adaptability are equally powerful, Jason smiled faintly. Humans have always adapted. It's how we survive. Liara studied him closely. You are small, fragile, and yet stronger than many who possess fleets and armies. I had not expected this. Jason felt a subtle pride, though he remained focused on the systems around him. The work was far from finished, but he knew that his methods had earned the Empress's respect. He also understood that this respect was different from what he had ever experienced with humans or aliens. This was recognition of ingenuity and courage. As they prepared to leave the chamber, a soft vibration ran through the ship. Jason paused, his instincts alert. Something is moving in the upper decks. Not part of the normal operation. Liara's eyes narrowed. It could be the Council. They have not approved your presence so closely. Perhaps they doubt you, Jason nodded. Then we must be careful. But I think they will see the results soon enough. They moved through the corridors together, their steps synchronized. Jason noticed that Liara's attention had shifted slightly, from observing him as a tool to observing him as a partner. Her respect was no longer tentative. It was measured, deliberate, and earned. Suddenly, a chamber door opened ahead. A group of the Empress's advisors appeared, their expressions wary. "Your Highness," one said, voice tense. "This human, he should not be here. His presence disrupts protocol." Liara stepped forward, her voice firm. "He has stabilized the core. He has prevented the collapse of this vessel. He is not a threat. He is an asset," the advisors murmured, exchanging uncertain glances. Jason stepped forward cautiously. "I do not seek to disrupt your order," he said calmly. "I am here to help, nothing more." Liara's amber eyes met his. "You speak with honesty. That alone is rare." One advisor stepped forward, clearly reluctant. "Your Highness, this human, he does not belong in the core chambers. It is forbidden." Liara's gaze hardened. "And yet he succeeded where my council feared failure. He has my trust and my command. That is enough." Jason felt a strange mix of relief and pride. In his experience, respect was earned, not given lightly. Here, in the presence of an alien empress and her council, he had demonstrated that humans could succeed through intelligence, courage, and focus. The advisors backed down, murmuring among themselves. Liara turned to Jason. "You have proven much today, but there is more to learn. The ship holds secrets I have not yet revealed, and dangers beyond what you have faced." Jason nodded. "I am ready." Liara studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable yet thoughtful. "Humans are more remarkable than I imagined. You may have changed my perspective on your entire species." Jason allowed himself a small smile. "Perhaps one human can, but the rest are worth watching too." The Empress's lips curved slightly. The first genuine smile Jason had seen from her. It was fleeting, but it carried meaning. Trust was growing, respect was earned, and a bond, subtle but strong, was forming between them. As the night settled over the distant stars, the ship hummed with energy, stabilized and alive. Jason and Liara had faced the first true challenge together, and in doing so had begun a partnership that neither could have anticipated. The human engineer had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability were forces to be reckoned with, even in a galaxy filled with beings far older and stronger than himself. And Empress Liara, for the first time in centuries, had begun to see humans as equals, not in power but in spirit. The ship had returned to an uneasy calm. Jason Carter worked alongside Empress Liara, stabilizing secondary systems, monitoring energy flows, and mapping the labyrinthine corridors. Yet beneath the hum of the ship's engines, a subtle tension lingered. Jason could sense it. The Empress was alert, more cautious than usual. Something was stirring within the ranks of her council, and he had a feeling it was not simply concern over his presence. "Something is amiss," Liara said quietly as they moved through a corridor near the upper decks. Her amber eyes scanned the shadows, alert to the faintest anomalies. "Some members of my council do not approve of your presence. They view your skill as unnatural. They may try to interfere." Jason nodded, understanding immediately. Humans often faced skepticism in alien societies, especially when underestimated. "Then we prepare," he said. "We make sure they cannot succeed." Liara inclined her head. "I have relied on secrecy for centuries, yet your methods are different. You would not follow protocol blindly. That is both valuable and dangerous." Jason smiled faintly. "Sometimes thinking differently is the only way to survive." They reached the council chambers, an expansive hall with walls of polished metal and shifting energy displays. Liara's aides hovered near the entrance, their expressions cautious. As she entered, Jason followed, feeling the weight of centuries of authority pressing down on him. Inside, a group of the Empress's most senior advisors had gathered. Their faces were stern, eyes sharp. Jason sensed their unease, their suspicion. They were not accustomed to a human being so close to the Empress, and even less accustomed to a human demonstrating competence beyond expectation. "Your Highness," one advisor began, voice steady but tense. "This human has been present in sensitive areas without proper authorization. His methods, they are untested, unpredictable. We cannot allow this." Liara's amber eyes fixed on the advisor. "He has proven himself. The core is stable. The auxiliary systems are functional and the ship is alive and responding to his guidance. That is proof enough. Another advisor stepped forward, voice edged with frustration. Proof is not enough. His presence undermines centuries of tradition. The ship is ancient. Only those who follow protocol can ensure its safety. Jason took a step forward, his voice calm and steady. I do not undermine tradition. I learn from it, adapt it, and use it to prevent failure. The ship responds to understanding, not fear of breaking protocol. A hush fell over the chamber. Liara's gaze softened slightly. He speaks the truth, she said. Too often we rely on tradition over reason. Humans, this human, has reminded us that logic, courage, and adaptability are as valuable as authority. The advisors murmured among themselves, but it was clear the Empress's words carried weight. Even they could see the results of Jason's work. A stabilized ship, functioning beyond expectation. Yet some remained skeptical, unwilling to accept a human so close to the Empress's trust. Suddenly, a subtle vibration ran through the floor. Jason stiffened. The upper decks, he said. Someone is moving. Not part of the normal crew. Liara's brow furrowed. They may be attempting to sabotage us. The Council's dissenters are cunning. They do not act openly, but they will test limits. Jason moved closer to her. Then we must anticipate their moves. If they attempt interference, we stop it quickly and quietly. Liara nodded, her expression firm. Agreed. We act before they can challenge us directly. They left the council chambers and moved swiftly through hidden corridors. Jason's instincts guided them toward the source of the disturbance. They reached a side chamber where a group of aides was tampering with control panels, attempting to override systems and redirect energy flows. Jason's mind worked quickly. We cannot confront them openly, they will resist. We need subtlety. Liara's eyes met his. Then show me your human method. Jason smiled faintly. Watch and learn. He reached out, adjusting a few key conduits from a hidden console. Energy flowed differently now, bypassing the affected panels. The aides' attempts failed silently. The systems rejected their tampering without alarms or sparks. Confused and frustrated, they retreated, unaware that their plan had been thwarted. Liara observed, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. You do not confront directly. You outthink them, Jason nodded. Sometimes strength is not enough. You must anticipate, adapt, and redirect. As the aides left, Liara stepped closer to Jason. You have not only stabilized the ship, but also prevented internal sabotage. Few beings could do this. Your methods are extraordinary. Jason shrugged modestly. I do what must be done. Fear, protocol, even tradition, they are tools, not obstacles. Understanding is the key. Liara studied him for a long moment. Humans are remarkable. I have seen countless civilizations, but few possess the combination of courage, intelligence, and adaptability you show. The moment passed, but the tension lingered. Jason knew the council would not easily accept him. Yet he had earned the Empress's trust, a bond that now extended beyond necessity into partnership. That night, Jason continued repairs and monitoring. Liara joined him in the control chambers, observing quietly as he worked. The ship was vast, its systems complex, but his human ingenuity allowed him to manage challenges that would have baffled even the most advanced alien engineers. Tell me, Liara said softly, how do humans survive in a galaxy that sees them as weak? Jason paused, looking at her. We survive by learning, by adapting, by relying on what others overlook. We are small, yes, but we think differently. That difference can be a strength. Liara's amber eyes glimmered with interest, and you embody that difference. You're human, yet more than human in your courage and focus. Jason felt a strange pride, though he kept his tone modest. I am just one human, but perhaps one can make a difference, Liara smiled faintly. You have made a difference already. Hours passed. Jason and Liara worked together, fine-tuning systems, reinforcing conduits, and mapping the ship's ancient architecture. Their cooperation had become seamless. Jason anticipated her instructions, and she trusted his judgment. In this quiet partnership, both realized that their combined strengths, human ingenuity and alien experience, were creating something far greater than either could achieve alone. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A deep resonant vibration ran through the floors and walls. Jason's eyes widened. The propulsion core, it's unstable. Something is affecting the energy flow throughout the ship. Liara's expression turned serious. It is the Council. They have not abandoned their efforts. Perhaps they have sought external influence to challenge me. Jason clenched his fists. Then we need to stabilize it immediately. If we fail, the consequences could be catastrophic. Together they moved to the propulsion core chamber. Energy flowed chaotically, bright tendrils arcing unpredictably through the room. Jason's hands flew over panels, rerouting currents, recalibrating stabilizers, and adjusting conduits. Liara assisted, her fingers moving precisely over controls, providing access to systems Jason could not reach alone. The surge intensified. Jason's heart raced, but he maintained focus. Liara's presence was calm, grounding him as he worked. Their hands met briefly on a control panel as they synchronized their efforts. The shared focus, the unity of human and alien minds, began to stabilize the core. Slowly, the chaotic energy diminished. The propulsion core hummed steadily, the ship vibrating with renewed stability. Both took a step back, breathing heavily but steady. "You are exceptional," Liara said quietly. "Few beings could manage this without fear, without hesitation." Jason smiled faintly. "It is not courage alone. It is understanding. Once you understand the problem, it becomes manageable." Liara's gaze softened. "You have taught me something valuable today. Strength is not measured in fleets or weapons. It is measured in intelligence, adaptability, and courage. You human embody these qualities." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of her words. For centuries, she had ruled with unmatched authority. Yet here she acknowledged a human as equal in spirit, if not in power. That night, as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the ship's hull, Jason and Liara stood side by side in a quiet observation chamber. The distant lights of galaxies shimmered like jewels against the blackness of space. Jason realized that his journey was no longer just about repairs or survival. He had become a part of the Empress's world, trusted, respected, and valued in ways he could never have imagined. And Liara, for all her centuries of rule, had discovered that even a small, fragile human could possess strengths beyond measure. She had learned that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could rival, and sometimes surpass, centuries of tradition and authority. The partnership was no longer merely functional. It was a bond forged in trust, tested by danger, and strengthened by shared experience. And as they looked out into the endless expanse of stars, both knew that the challenges ahead would require everything they had, and perhaps more. The ship had finally settled into a quiet rhythm. Jason Carter moved through the corridors with a calm precision, checking systems, recalibrating conduits, and ensuring the auxiliary power grids remained stable. The ship had tested him, pushed him to his limits, yet he had not faltered. And with every challenge, he had proven that human ingenuity could match, or even exceed, the expectations of beings far older and more advanced than himself. Empress Liara followed him closely, her amber eyes observing each movement, noting how seamlessly he adapted to the ship's complexities. "You have changed the way I see humans," she said quietly. "Your abilities, your perspective. It is something I did not anticipate." Jason glanced at her. "It's not just about abilities. It's about approach. Understanding, patience, and focus. These matter as much as power." Liara nodded slowly. "And yet it seems humans often rely on fear and instinct. You are different. You think first, act second. That is rare." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft pulse of the ship's warning system. Jason's instincts immediately kicked in. Propulsion anomalies. Someone is attempting to interfere with the core again. Liara's eyes narrowed. The Council. They have not given up. Perhaps they seek to challenge my authority directly. Jason clenched his fists. Then we stop them before they succeed. They moved swiftly through the narrow corridors, guided by the ship's internal sensors. The energy readings spiked as they approached the core chamber. Inside, a group of rogue council aides attempted to override critical systems. Sparks flew and the room hummed with unstable energy. Jason's mind raced. "We cannot confront them head-on," he said. "It will trigger defensive systems and could destroy the core." "Subtlety is key." Liara's gaze sharpened. "Then show me your human method," Jason nodded. He activated a hidden override console, rerouting energy flows away from the affected panels. The rogue aides' manipulations began to fail silently. Confusion spread across their faces as their attempts to destabilize the ship proved futile. Liara observed closely. You do not fight them. You outthink them. Jason adjusted another conduit, ensuring the energy flowed smoothly, neutralizing any residual threats. Sometimes thinking differently is more powerful than force. The aides retreated, realizing their plan had failed, unaware that their every move had been anticipated. Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. You are exceptional, she admitted. Few beings could achieve this without detection and without fear. Jason exhaled, steadying his nerves. It is not courage alone. It is understanding. Once you comprehend the problem, it becomes manageable. Liara studied him, her expression thoughtful. You remind me that true strength is not measured by fleets or armies, but by intelligence, adaptability, and composure. You human embody these qualities. The ship hummed softly, stabilized and alive. Jason and Liara moved toward the observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly before them. The distant galaxies shimmered like jewels, casting faint light on their features. For the first time, the Empress allowed herself a moment of reflection, not as a ruler, but as a being capable of recognizing worth, regardless of origin. You have changed the balance of this ship, she said softly. Not through brute force, but through your mind and courage. I am impressed, Jason smiled faintly. I am just one human. But perhaps one human can make a difference. Liara's gaze softened. You have already made a difference. And perhaps more than you realize. A sudden alert broke the quiet. Jason's instincts flared immediately. Sensors detect an external breach. Something large, approaching fast, likely a vessel attempting to board. Liara's brow furrowed. This was not expected. Prepare for defense. Jason quickly analyzed the ship's defensive systems. The automated turrets are functional, but we may need manual oversight. Their speed and precision suggest an advanced race, possibly mercenaries or a rival faction. Liara nodded. Then we act together. You will guide the defenses. I will command the ship's tactical maneuvers. They moved to the control chamber. Jason's hands flew over panels, adjusting targeting systems, rerouting power to shields and fine-tuning energy pulses. Liara guided the ship with calm precision, her commands swift and decisive. Their teamwork was seamless, human ingenuity and alien experience working in perfect harmony. The enemy vessel emerged from the shadows, sleek and heavily armed. Jason calculated the trajectory of their approach, predicting their maneuvers with uncanny accuracy. He adjusted the turrets, coordinating with Liara's maneuvers to create a defensive network that trapped the intruders in precise energy fields. The enemy hesitated, caught off guard by the speed and accuracy of the ship's response. Jason's calculations allowed the turrets to intercept projectiles before they reached critical systems, while Liara's commands kept the ship out of range of concentrated attacks. Slowly, the intruders were forced to retreat. Liara exhaled, her expression both relief and admiration. You have done what few could. Even under direct threat, your composure and intelligence prevented catastrophe. Jason nodded. It's about anticipation and understanding. Fear is information, not a weapon. Adaptation is key. The ship returned to calm. Jason and Liara moved through the corridors, checking for hidden damage. The rogue council members had been contained, their attempts neutralized without further risk. Jason realized that his human approach, analyzing, adapting, and applying logic, had not only stabilized the ship, but also prevented internal and external threats from succeeding. Later, in the observation chamber, the two stood side by side gazing at the stars. Jason felt a sense of accomplishment, yet he remained grounded. This was only the beginning of what the ship could face. You have taught me much, Liara said quietly, about courage, intelligence, and resilience. About humans. You have changed my perspective. Jason looked at her. I am glad if I could help. Humans have always found ways to survive even when underestimated. Liara's amber eyes glimmered with respect. And yet you are not just a survivor. You are a partner, a mind capable of guiding, protecting, and enhancing what I control. That is rare. Jason smiled faintly, feeling the weight of her words. It is not about being rare. It's about understanding and acting on that understanding. For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching distant galaxies drift past the observation windows. Jason realized that the partnership between human and Empress was no longer just functional. It was built on trust, respect, and shared experience. The ship hummed softly around them, a living entity responding to both their guidance. Jason felt a profound sense of connection. not only to the ship but also to Liara, who had begun to see humans in a way few aliens ever did. Capable, intelligent, and courageous, Liara spoke again, her voice gentle. I once believed that humans were small and weak, that they could never match the challenges of the galaxy. You have proven me wrong. Jason met her gaze. One human can make a difference, and sometimes one human's perspective can change the way an entire civilization thinks. Liara smiled, faint but genuine. Then perhaps the galaxy should pay more attention to your kind. As the night stretched across the stars, Jason felt a quiet satisfaction. He had faced ancient systems, internal sabotage, and external threats. He had stabilized a ship older than any human vessel, guided by instinct, skill, and understanding. And in doing so, he had earned the respect and trust of an empress who had ruled for centuries. For Liara, the realization was equally profound. The human before her was not merely an engineer or a visitor. He was a mind capable of extraordinary thought, a spirit resilient in the face of danger, and a partner who could navigate challenges she had once believed insurmountable. The bond between them, forged through trials and tempered by experience, was unspoken but undeniable. In a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, ancient ships, and unending threats, they had found something rare: mutual respect, trust, and the understanding that strength could take many forms. Jason Carter, the human, had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability were forces the galaxy could not ignore. And Empress Liara had learned that even the smallest, most underestimated beings could shape the course of events, change perspectives, and earn a place at her side. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, both knew that the future would bring more challenges. But they were ready. Together, human ingenuity and alien experience had created a partnership that could face anything the galaxy might offer. And in that partnership, the boundaries of species, tradition, and expectation blurred, leaving only one truth: courage, intelligence, and determination were universal, and they were unstoppable.